Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back. Thank you all for your patience. As we just heard, there was an announcement between OCE and BDC, and as a result, we just had to defer things slightly. So thank you for your patience, and Chris, thank you for your patience. So I just want to welcome everybody to the Innovation Partner presentations this afternoon. And for those of you just joining us, my name is Sharon Jobity, and I'm the VP of Human Resources with the Ontario Centres of Excellence, and we welcome you here today. So it's my pleasure to introduce to you our next Innovation Partner presentation from Export Development Canada, or EDC. Here to present today is Chris Evans, who is the Senior Account Manager with EDC. EDC is Canada's export credit agency offering financial and risk management solutions to help Canadian businesses expand into the U.S. and other international markets. So I'd like to welcome Chris up to the podium, and we will have opportunity for some questions once the presentation is done.
Thank you. And thank you, Sharon. I have to say it's a hard act to follow a major agreement being signed between OCE and BDC. Congratulations to both the parties, BDC and OCE, for that agreement, which I think is going to help entrepreneurs from the description of the agreement and help get technologies implemented quickly. So I'll keep my comments short. We're running a little late, but I can take you through the high points anyway. So I'm Chris Evans. I have the Clean Tech file with Export Development Canada for Ontario. Clean Tech to us is generally any technology that has a beneficial impact on the environment or brings extra efficiencies to processes. So just a little word on Export Development Canada. Again, like BDC, it's a federal crown corporation. We're financially independent, self-sustaining, and we're wholly owned by the Government of Canada. The point on the next slide that's of interest is that we support over 7,000 exporters. An exporter to us is somebody that is a single-person company trading in lumber or some other commodity, a food commodity, meat or grains. And we help these companies export to over 198 countries internationally. Where are we located? Well, we're Export Development Canada, so come on in. We're located internationally in 18 locations internationally. We're housed within the Canadian consulate or Canadian embassy offices internationally in the countries you see on the slide here. Notice that a lot of the countries are certainly not G8 countries or highly developed countries. Germany might be the exception to that. We're in countries where trade is growing at a rapid pace with Canada. So many countries in South America, for example, many countries in Asia, which are increasing their trade with Canada significantly. So I'm speaking specifically at this innovation conference on EDC support for clean technologies. So what do I mean by the clean technology sector? Perhaps go back a slide for that or forward. We define a clean technology transaction as one that involves a proprietary or other advanced technology to directly reduce negative environmental impacts and also falls within one of the STDC, or Sustainable Development Technologies Canada sectors, and there are 10 or 11 subsectors that are included in this. And of those 10 or 11, I'm going to focus on the ones Ontario is good at. Okay, here are the STDC clean tech subsectors that we support. And I'll give some description now of the 4 of them that are relevant to Ontario and examples of Ontario's comparative advantage in these fields. The first one Ontario is really good at, and where we're supporting companies, is green chemistry and bio-based fuels. Southwestern Ontario right now is having a bit of a resurgence from old economy to new economy, and much of this is in the green chemistry and bio-based fuel technologies. In the past decade, southwestern Ontario firms have been moving away from steel, away from petrochemicals, and have frankly had plant closings. But what that has left behind is an infrastructure that's available for clean technologies to come in and fill the gap. Why does it work in Ontario? Well, there's an existing skilled labor pool. There's locally sourced inputs. Many of these green chemistry and biochemistry based products involve corn or other bio feedstocks. Also, we have existing infrastructure and pipelines. So we see EDC support for this green chemistry and bio industry as being an important way to help Ontario businesses. Examples where we've done this: a company called BioAmber is in Sarnia. They're setting up a plant right now to use corn and soya as a basis for making new plastics. These plastics are going to be used for consumer product containers. Danone in France is very interested in this. Coca-Cola is very interested in using containers that are biosourced rather than sourced through hydrocarbons, oil and gas, to make the polymers. Another company, Green Mantra in Brantford. This company uses biosourced waxes used in various applications from Crayola crayons to other wax applications in industry. So that's green chemistry as one of the areas that Ontario is excelling in the clean tech sector. Another area is solar power generation. Ontario, in the late O's, set up a FIT program, a feed-in tariff program, that encouraged local industry and required local content to make solar power and wind equipment. This included the panels, the inverters, and all the things that go into solar power, as well as production parts for solar wind power equipment. In fact, at the end of 2010, early 2011, Ontario was one of the key places for recognized internationally for solar power, the others being Germany and Southern California. So this, coupled with innovations that have come on the back of this, the FIT program has been de-emphasized now, and most of the activity is in exporting Ontario's solar power expertise. This combined with research in solar power has spun out many interesting companies, some making panels, specialized panels, such as Heliane in Sault Ste. Marie, Eclipsol in Markham, Silfab in Mississauga. And another trend we're seeing in solar in Ontario is the evolution of specialized solar firms using new technologies, making panels more efficient. Panels are typically 15% efficient, but firms like Morgan Solar here in Toronto are making panels twice as efficient as that. Panels that perhaps have 25 or 35% efficiency. 35 a bit high, but certainly 35% efficiency. Cilantro, another Ontario-based firm in Ottawa, is making very efficient inverters. When you produce solar power, you have to put it through an electric inverter to make it suitable for the grid. Cilantro is very good at that. So just concluding my remarks about solar power in Ontario, the key word is differentiation. The Ontario firms that are succeeding in the solar power supply chain are using innovation and differentiation, such as Morgan Solar in its highly efficient panels, or Cilantro in its new use of new inverters that they're using in solar power production. One last comment I'd make about Ontario is there seems to be an Ontario-Quebec supply chain going. Quebec is very good at specialized metal fabrication. So some of the racking that goes into solar power generation farms, Quebec is ideally suited to supply a lot of the specialized racking for solar power, lightweight and durable. The third area Ontario excels at, as well as generating power, you need to store power. So Ontario has some pretty cool energy storage technologies. Why do you need storage with solar or wind power or green power in general? Well, you have to take account for the intermittent energy that comes from these sources and store it and have the grid provide it when people need it. So firms such as Temporal Power has high weight and high velocity flywheels that store power. Hydrostore, which uses a compression mechanism, an under lake or under ocean compression mechanism to store power, are two, I think, real gems of Ontario power generation technology. Other areas where power storage, I think, is excelling in Ontario are conventional battery or chemical power storage methods. Electrovaya in Mississauga is one of those companies that's making next generation lithium-ion batteries. And I would say also Hydrogenics, using hydrogen fuel cells, also an Ontario-based company, is a leader in its field in power storage. So the last area where Ontario is excelling in clean technologies, in my view, probably the best developed cluster of all of them that I've mentioned, is in water. Ontario comes by this honestly and frankly in a way that was perhaps a misstep originally. You all remember the Walkerton water incident. That led to legislation, which has led to industry making better potable water and water purification systems. And as a result now, Ontario is recognized as exporting some of the best potable water purification systems in the world. Companies like UV Pure and Markham, which make onboard water purification systems for constrained spaces, aircraft, ships, etc. Trojan Technologies, I believe in London, Ontario, also doing UV purification of water. And not just potable water. Ontario is very good at producing clean water, or at least usable water, from wastewaters. Xenon Environmental in Burlington started as a small company and was acquired by General Electric in the mid-O's. It's one of the largest companies in its field now. I'd also mention Simpson Environmental in Burlington is another one, and Energia, which uses anaerobic digestion, anaerobic bacteria to purify wastewaters as well. So those four areas I'd just like to leave you with that Ontario can be very proud of in its clean tech endeavors, getting world recognition and world recognition that EDC is supporting. Again, green chemistry, biofuels, solar, energy storage, and water technologies, both potable water and wastewater treatment. I'll just conclude my presentation with one or two slides on what EDC, the exact mechanics of how does EDC support. Well, there are two things we really do. One is we support the banking function for a technology company. What does that mean? Well, it means that for companies that cannot get the loan they need to get going at the bank, we can provide a guarantee to the bank. The bank must be interested in taking a little bit of risk, but we can provide a guarantee to provide at least half, if not more, of the risk, the total risk of the loan you're looking for. Second way we can look at it is we can finance, if your foreign customer is bankable, we can look at providing a longer-term loan to them to actually buy and subsequently repay our loan to buy your equipment. So we could lend directly to your customer, your client. The other key area where we help is, imagine yourself as a small Canadian company making its first large export sale. What if your large foreign customer decides unilaterally to change the terms of the sale, pay you less, cancel the order, and you've incurred costs to do that? That's the second part of what we do, is the insurance function, which includes credit insurance and political risk insurance to protect you from this kind of one-sided decision that your customer might make to your disadvantage. So that's, in a nutshell, the two things we do. I can speak specifically about programs we have if you're interested after the talk, but that's really EDC's function, is banking support and insurance support. I'll give you one or two examples of transactions we've done recently. The first transaction was what we call a bonding transaction. What does bonding mean? Well, it means the Canadian company's bank has to issue a letter of credit to the foreign buyer to convince the foreign buyer that they're for real and they can complete the job. Often, the company has to post a cash deposit to the bank, so the bank will issue this bond, and most often they can't do that because they've got to use the money for working capital for the project that they're undertaking. So we step in and provide a guarantee to the bank so the bank can issue the letter of credit. In this case, the company had a contract in Malaysia. The tenor was quite long because the customer wanted to be sure over a 36-month period that in this case, it was a biofiltration system for odor control, VOCs from a plant that was a customer in Malaysia. They wanted it to work over a 36-month period. So in that case, we supported with the bonding, and the company got the contract and was able to provide the product and close the transaction. Second example I have here is a company that's a developer of membrane technologies. This company had proven themselves on a pilot plant basis that they could improve filtration and separation in a biorefinery. In this case, the biorefinery was a second generation ethanol production plant in Virginia. Sale was about $600,000, if I recall. The costs were about $300,000, so good margin for the company. And the outcome there was that we were able to finance the company directly to do this, to make this transaction. The company was unbankable at the time, so we were able to support them. So 2 examples of how we've supported with relatively small amount of money or commitment to help Ontario companies export in the US and in Asia. I'll leave it at that. If there's any more questions or any questions after the talk, happy to go into our programs in detail with anyone that has an opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chris, for that presentation. I think it was very informative. So next, I'd like to introduce our next presenter, and our last, but definitely not our least for this afternoon, will be Manny Argiropoulos. Sorry, Manny. He is the Chief SME Stakeholder Engagement from the Office of Small and Medium Enterprises, Public Works and Government Services Canada. Manny's presentation will outline the process for the procurement of goods and services with government and how businesses of all sizes can become successful vendors. If you have any questions, we'll leave some time open at the end of the presentation, but I'd like to welcome Manny up to the podium.
Thank you very much. Yeah, the name is a mouthful for sure. I have my 5x7 business cards if you want them. Anyways, Manny for short. I work with Public Works Government Services Canada, specifically with the Office of Small and Medium Enterprises. And my role there is to do the outreach and engagement to inform businesses, small businesses in particular, about how to do business with the federal government. It's a $20 billion marketplace. A lot of businesses do not know that there are opportunities to sell their goods and services to the Government of Canada. So our role is to inform and assist them of what the process includes and how to get involved in navigating and then bidding on opportunities. So what I'm going to do, we have a 2-hour seminar that we offer, but obviously we don't have the time here for that. I'm going to go over at a very high level some of the key aspects that you should be aware of, at least to get started in doing business with the Government of Canada. So let me go through the introductions. So we inform, assist, and engage small businesses all across Ontario region, but we're obviously a federal government department. We have offices all across Canada in our public works regions. So Ontario region is representative of all the province of Ontario, excluding certain areas around the capital area, Ottawa, and so forth. Here, our office is located at 4900 Yonge Street. We also are an office that helps reduce barriers on your behalf. So what we do is, if you have an issue or barrier with the federal procurement system, it's important to bring it to our attention, because likewise somebody else in the province or maybe in another region of the country will likely have the same issue. If it's not told, if it's not brought forward, it falls on deaf ears. So we represent your views within that system. Essentially, we push these barriers and issues to our policy people in Ottawa, who worked effectively with our policy and procurement people to make the procurement process more efficient, open, fair, and transparent for all. Your objectives, I'm not going to go into all of these items, but essentially I'm going to talk to you about how you can get started in doing business with the Government of Canada. There's two ways of engaging the government in doing business. One is on the low dollar value side of things, and it's a niche area for small businesses in particular. So niche area for goods, services, and construction below certain dollar value amounts. So I'm going to tell you about how you can get started essentially registering in our supplier databases, what the limits are for consideration for procurement within the federal government, as well as how we do procurement in terms of competitive and non-competitive approaches. Then we're going to talk a little bit about essentially how to build relationships, how to market yourself to the right officials to instill upon them that you have valued goods or services that you can provide the Government of Canada to ultimately provide you with an opportunity to bid. So you could be one of three that they send out a request for quotation if you market to the right officials. Okay, so I'll tell you how that is applied. And then we're going to talk about the other way of doing business with the government on the open tender side of things. This is purely you competing against other companies across the world in some instances. Whoever has the best overall value to the Crown will be awarded the contract. So some terms and conditions that are going to be mentioned. If we don't have enough time, you can always come and talk to me after the session here today, or follow up with our office in Toronto. We offer free seminars every Wednesdays throughout the year, and it'll be on the last page that I'll show you. So we work through our Government of Canada web portal, an open data concept, open web page concept for the federal government. The Procurement Web Portal is known as buyandsell.gc.ca. If you move or go away from today, that's the one piece of information you should walk away with. Go into it. It has all our referenceable information for doing business with the government. It's for businesses, as you can see there, but it's also for government officials. So when we're looking to source out suppliers for some of the procurements that we do, that's where we go find our source list. So we may find you, we may find you, we may find you to send out requests for quotations for pricing. But you have to be registered and identifiable in the system. And I'll show you how to do that. So a little bit about understanding the process, how we buy. You obviously note that the Government of Canada is one of the largest buyers in all of Canada. Second only probably to Loblaws. They do a lot of buying, but $20 billion is a large sum of money. Approximately 70% of the contracts that the government awards are for contracts less than $80,000, which are considered low dollar contracts. And this is a niche area for small businesses. So for example, we could do about 300,000 small contracts, less than $80,000. In retrospect, the larger contracts, maybe only 60,000. So you can see there it's about 1/5. Okay, but 70% of those contracts are awarded to small and medium enterprises, businesses with less than 500 employees. So we use Industry Canada's definitions, okay? For a small business solutions provider, service provider, it's 1 to 49 considered small, 50 to 499 considered medium, and 500 and above is large. For a goods producer, products, we go with 1 to 99 is considered small, 100 to 499 medium, and 500 and above is large. Okay, so there are opportunities of small value, but great value contracts as well through the Government of Canada. It's just a matter of applying and getting involved in the process. Because if you don't apply, if you don't bid, if you don't look to make connections, you're not going to win those contracts. Okay, so taking the first steps is understanding about how to get involved. This is a quick snapshot of some of the key areas that the government focuses on. Obviously, we focus on 3 key commodity areas: construction, goods, and services. So all the commodities that fall under those 3 categories is what we buy. Roughly about 15,000 different types of commodities. So we buy a lot of stuff. And we buy things like, I keep using the term planes, trains, automobiles. We buy all those things. Satellite equipment, the Canada satellite arm, but we buy little things like paper clips, toiletries, animals for testing purposes, in our labs, all kinds of different products and services. So this is just a snapshot of what we buy across the country, and it's broken down, and you can see the spend there. As well, from Ontario companies, some of the key products that we buy, and you can see it's a good cross-section of goods, services, and construction, okay? Quite a few, $5 billion worth in 2012-13 from Ontario companies, okay? And Ontario, of course, has the bulk of all businesses in Canada, including small and medium enterprises. 2.4 million or so, 2.5 million small and medium enterprises across Canada. In Ontario alone, there's close to 1 million. So anyone cater to guess what the representation is in terms of percentage to small and medium across the country? Over 98%, okay? 98% and above are small and medium enterprises, and about 95% are small businesses, okay? So there is a niche area for small and medium enterprises, especially within the Government of Canada. So we strive to do procurement, obviously, on an open, fair, and transparent system. So Public Works and Government Services Canada, the department that I work for, is a common service provider to all government other departments, okay? So we provide common services like translation services, pay and pension, as well as real estate services. We're the real estate arm, we're office accommodation services, but the key area is acquisitions. So we're the main purchasing arm of the federal government. We do all the major procurements on behalf of other government departments so they can go and do their business accordingly and serve Canadians best. So the dollar value amounts that I mentioned earlier, $25,000 for goods or below. Each department that falls under the Financial Administration Act, Schedule 1, 1.1, 1.2, there's about 106 of them, can do business on their own. They can buy goods up to $25,000 on their own. So if it's a local purchase for some items for their office, they don't have to come to Public Works. But if it exceeds that amount, they know they're going to be doing more than $25,000, they have to come to Public Works, who has the appropriate delegation of authority that their minister does not have, for them to do that contract. Okay, so we would do whatever we can to purchase with a requirement, likely posting it on buy and sell for competition. Okay, so we do this under Treasury Board guidelines, federal guidelines that govern procurement, regulations that make certain that we do the procurement in a competitive manner and in an open, fair, and transparent way. And we follow those rules. There's no bending the rules, okay? Private sector, a little different. You can take somebody to dinner, engage them, etc. You don't do that with government officials. There is a process that you need to follow, and this is what we're kind of assisting small businesses in particular to better understand. So you can see here all departments can buy goods up to $25,000 or services up to $2 million. Now, $2 million is a high value, so services that they require on a regular basis can be procured by them. So you can see posted contracts on buy and sell tenders from any individual department for services. If they exceed those amounts, however, they have to do business through Public Works. Public Works will get the contract in place and the contract awarded. So again, under $25,000, it has to be accessible, it has to be competed for, and it has to be done in a fair manner. We don't always go out through competition. Sometimes there are requirements where we need to sole source, go direct sourcing, and there's justifications applied to those. So we just don't go out and buy because we want to buy from one vendor. There's reasons for it. One is because it's a national security issue, or it's a national emergency, like the floods, let's say, or the ice storms that have come through. We can't waste time on procurements that are going to be 4 to 6 weeks. People's lives are at stakes. So we mobilize. We say, okay, Hydro 1, you go out and restore the hydro. We're going to pay for it. We won't waste time. That's the type of non-competitive procurement that can be done. But services as well. The last thing is on prototype. So if you are unique in your field and I need an analysis done and you're the only one in the world that can do it, or you have a license to do it, then I have to go through you. So that's a copyright. So those are non-competitive ways. But essentially, we strive to do it in an open, fair, and competitive manner. Now, I just didn't pick out those numbers out of the blue. $25,000 for goods, $80,400 for services, and $100,000 for construction. That's the way of doing business on the low dollar value side of things. But what are those numbers important for? Why didn't I use $54,800? Anyone cater to guess what those numbers are? We are governed by trade agreements that the government has in place with other nations, other governments, internal to Canada, for example. So the trade agreement thresholds for the agreement on internal trade, for example, between the provinces, dictates the goods threshold. So that's why we say 25,000 or below. If it was 38,000, then that would be the lowest amount. We would use 38,000 or below. So 25 is a cutoff for goods and 100,000 for construction, which was the agreement on internal trade. 80,400, NAFTA, North American Free Trade Agreement. So if it exceeds that amount, we need to post on our open tender system for all companies in those jurisdictions, Canada, Mexico, and the US, companies can all bid on that commodity. Okay? So you have to understand that trade agreements play an impact on how we buy. If it's a local purchase, we can just go out and buy using our buying card, MasterCards, or we can do local purchase orders for purchasing of non-complex, easy procurements for our office. 2 or 3 chairs, boom, done. Okay? I can go to Grandin Toy and buy some pencils that I need right away. Okay? Otherwise, the more complex it gets, there's process involved, so we have to follow the process. So these are the common methods used while buying for low dollar. Invitation to tender is the most common one, or request for a quotation. So I would use government source lists to highlight and find suppliers that can do the work for me and invite them to tender. So I can send you something, I need 15 of these widgets for my office. How much will it cost? I give you the dimensions, the specifications are all in the document. I know the brand that I need. How much can you fill the order for? I will likely pick somebody else, or maybe Google search, or maybe if that gentleman had come and marketed to me and provided me a brochure and I kept it on file, I may remember to use him, so I'll invite him to tender. So the 3 of you, out of a list of maybe thousands, were narrowed down for quotations. I would solicit bids, and for low dollar contracts, 95% of the time it's awarded on lowest price. So lowest price prevails, the best price. I can't, if he says 5,000 and you say 12,000 and you say 8,000, taxpayers' dollars, I have to go with the 5,000. Okay? It's the same product, the same amount, everything. As long as you can deliver and meet the terms, we have to award on best price. That's not always the case on competitive contracts. Price may be a determining factor, and it may be the only factor, but in the solicitation itself, it will tell you how we're going to do the award. It's most likely going to be a best overall value. Okay? Most common is the request for proposal. This is where we post a tender openly. You look at it, see what the terms and conditions are, and write a proposal back telling us what your solution is and why we should select you as the best overall. We would score you, weigh you, etc., and then award a contract accordingly. We also have other methods of supply where we pre-qualify suppliers to have them ready when we need them. Remember I said 4 to 6 weeks to do a regular procurement? That takes a lot of time. If we continuously go out for procurements on things we buy a lot of, that's going to be a long time, and a lot of people's money are going to be spent inappropriately. So what we do is we pre-qualify, we send out a notice to everybody saying, I need professional engineers, and I need a lot of them, so I need you to qualify in my standing offer or supply arrangement, so when I need you, I can easily say, yeah, I've already screened you in, you're qualified, what's your pricing? Okay? So those are pre-qualifications that you need to consider, and that's on the open tender side of things. Invitation to tender, I'll just go through all of this. We just mentioned that. The advanced contract award notice, this is for non-competitive. Remember I told you there's certain ways we can do sole sourcing. We still do our due diligence if it's a high complex process and we want to go sole source, and this fellow indicated that he has the right solution and he's got copyright. We're not so certain. We will still post on our electronic tendering service an advanced contract award notice telling the world, hey world, we're coming into contract with him. He just says this is the only service available through him, so we're thinking that's correct. But if you think otherwise, you have 15 days to write a statement of capabilities to let us know that actually you can do the same thing, slightly different, but will get you the same results. And then we would, if it's true, we would do a modified RFP, which will last 5 to 10 days. Okay? So different ways to achieve the same ends. Best overall value for the government. So how do you start? We'll go through this. As a very first step for any supplier that's looking to start with the Government of Canada, consider low dollar as a starting point. Look for small contracts first. How do you get started? You need to register yourself in the Supplier Registration Information Database, SRI for short. You take your Canada Revenue Agency business number, 9-digit number, plus your RT001. You submit it to SRI. You give some general information about who you are, and we will cross-reference you against CRA's databases. If you're in good standing with your taxes, you'll get back the exact same business number, but instead of RT01, it's PG001. So then you're doing business or procurement with government. Okay? So it's the same number, efficiencies, cross-referencing against CRAs. You need that number to do business with at least Public Works Government Services Canada, so when you invoice us, that's how we pay you. Okay? If you don't have it at that time, you'll be asked to get it. It takes maybe about an hour tops. You put all your information in, the cross-reference happens, and your PBN comes back. You create a username, password, profile, because when you get accepted and you get that PBN, you go back into the system and you check off all those commodities that we have, those 15,000, and tell us which one you can supply. Because our buyers will use that as your profile. So when I need widgets of this kind, of this commodity, and his name is on there, he may be one of the ones that I call because his name was on the list. Okay? So that's low dollar. You need to start somewhere. Everybody needs to register an SRI. That's how the system looks, and essentially you put in your key information. There are other supplier, how much? That's it? Oh my God. You said half an hour. It's a half an hour already? Oh, okay, sorry. You're on the clock. Give me a heads up at 5, okay? I was going as fast as I can. So there are other databases as well for consideration for low dollar, and the main other one is for architectural and engineering services and real consulting services for the Government of Canada. And if you fall under one of those categories, you need to register on Select. It's not like a regular registration. Here you have to do a corporate profile, show us your licensing on the, are you a professional engineer? Are you a professional architect? You can look to get pre-qualified for low dollar opportunities. When and if we need them, we will call upon you at that time. So it is a database that you register. The rest are pre-qualified categories where you download a tender document and you have to technically qualify to be put on that qualification list. Any of you do business with the provincial government? Okay, they have vendors of record. They use vendors of record as a term. The Government of Canada's terms are standing offers and supply arrangements. So you pre-qualify when we need you. We can use you. And those are some of the examples. So for low dollar side of things, to better your chances, one of the good things we say is promote yourself proactively to the right officials. Now, don't spam government officials. Don't send like a million emails to everybody to tell them who you are. That's why we say you need to research a little bit, identify who the right audience is, or who the right officials are, and there's several good tools on Buy and Sell to use to identify people. So if you're an engineer, you're not going to look for somebody in communications or real property to engage with. You want to find somebody in the engineering or technical services section, somebody in authority to purchase, to make those decisions, somebody like a regional manager or a director level person, and say to them, hey, I'm in your systems. Next time you go out, here's my brochure for consideration for my services. It may go to them that, hey, you know what, this guy's in the system, I may need to use him. At least you market it. So that's how you build relationships. There's 3 or 4 common tools that you can use for building relationships. Essentially, let me just see where it is. Here they are. One of them is called the Departmental Material Managers List. These are the lists of all the buyers all across Canada for every department that buys, okay, up to $25,000 for goods. So essentially, they're the buyers. They may not be the people to market, but they may know the end users. Essentially, the end users, the people at the front lines, like I said, the regional managers and authority, those are the people to connect with and instill upon them some aspect of why you should be considered. The procurement contacts are public works officials. The best tool is the Government Electronic Directory Service, known as GEDS. It's the white pages for the Government of Canada. Just do a department listing for Public Works, Ontario region. Look for architectural and engineering services to find that engineering regional director. Ultimately, you need to decide how to get involved with the Government of Canada. Are you going to be prime? contractor? Are you going to have subcontractors working for you, or are you going to be subcontractor? We encourage small businesses to better understand, get informed, and align themselves appropriately with groups or organizations or companies that have been successful to ultimately help provide them with subcontracting that they can fill larger orders. Because technically speaking, on the large side of things, not even big companies can provide us what we need. They find partners to subcontract out to fill the orders. So there's a variety of tools as well to use that you can identify yourself better to groups or to the government. One of them is Industry Canada's Canada Capabilities Database. It's free to do. You go in and you self-identify yourself, identifying a certain niche area that you supply so that people can find you. They use the database for analytics, for industry, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the picture on the low dollar side of things, accessing government contracts for low dollar opportunities. For the competitive side, only one place to go. How many of you heard of MERCs? Okay, the Government of Canada used to use MERCs as its government electronic tendering service up until June the 1st. After June the 1st, we migrated and evolved to our own open data system, which is buyandsell.gc.ca/tenders. So that's where you'll find all the Government of Canada tenders now. If you go to MERCs, you'll need an account, you paid account. You can use them, nothing wrong with that, but they'll redirect you back to the authoritative source, which is buy and sell tenders. This is how it looks. We set it up with key search parameters for key searches. What's active today, what's being looked at in the last 24 hours, all of these things. But essentially, it's an open website where you can do searches like you do on Google. What happens is you identify based on a keyword search or a commodity code. The government uses GSIN codes as their commodities. So if you can identify your specific commodity, just put that search in there and set up a syndication feed that will notify you what's happening in that commodity. So next time a new contract is out and you do a feed or you get notified through the feed, you'll know that there's something new out. Okay? Obviously, the benefits are it's an open data, there's no registration, there's no fees, no complications. You can access, you can share the links for the tender documents. So here you'll find those complex procurements of large dollar value amounts where you can then download the document, write a proposal telling us why you're the most qualified, and then eventually you may be awarded a contract. So this is the competitive tender side of things. You can also help yourself by identifying whether or not you can bid on a big contract. If you're finding you can't meet the qualifications, how do you align yourself to partner with larger companies, other small businesses to get a piece of the action, as they say? Proactive disclosure is a website link on every Government of Canada website. Every government department that issues a contract above $10,000, they need to divulge the information of who the contract was awarded to and when it was awarded and for what amount. Here's a good way for you to search and find if there's contracts that have been awarded in your area. This will identify who's been successful. Even better, there are other organizations that the government posts information on, and it's on the Government of Canada's website, Public Works, Buy and Sell, and it's called Contract History. So do a search on contract history. It goes back at least 3 years, so you can do some analytics there to set up a strategy. So one last thing I'm going to tell you about before moving to the end of the presentation. We have a new program that you can get involved in. There was a presentation earlier today. We have a table right behind this wall. The Building Canada Innovation Program is a program like a procurement. You write a proposal to tell the Government of Canada why you have an innovation that can be used by us so that we can help you commercialize through the government. So in essence, we pay for your final testing and first purchase of that particular innovation, making it commercialized. Then you can leverage it and sell it to the real world with an endorsement from the Government of Canada. You can receive up to $500,000 on the regular stream or up to $1 million for the military side. And I can tell you more about it afterwards. We have our national director here, and you can engage her as well. Her name is Helen Brader. But go to buyandsell.gc.ca/innovation for that. Bidding on opportunities essentially is writing your proposals. Security sometimes is a requirement. The solicitation or the request will tell you if you need security clearance on an organizational level or a personal level. And these are the different security clearances. The first 3 is about a month to get. The secret ones take up to a year. So essentially, you need to be involved in a procurement to get cleared. And essentially, there's contact information. Buy and Sell is the main website. We can do a tour. But essentially, we have other seminars. Take note of these, folks. Come and take my business card at the table. We have our website link, or if you want, just Google OSME Ontario Region. Go to our calendar of events, and these are up for your interests. They're 2-hour intense seminars that give you full detail of what we are able to provide you to better your chances of getting involved. And that's my presentation. We have contact information here for all our regions. Again, we're located locally here at 4900 Yonge Street. If there are any questions, maybe one, maybe not, I could take them, or I can engage you at my booth. Thank you for your attention. Yeah, you have a question? No, everything is free with the Government of Canada. Our main website is Buy and Sell. Like I said, you just go to it. Tenders, /tenders is where you search for tenders. That's also free. There's no subscription, no fees for downloads, nothing. Not the same as Merck's, no. That's why we moved to an open data concept. It's an adoption by all of government. Yes?
Sorry, are all your tenders still posted on Merck's but just redirected? Or no?
Merck's, okay, forget about Merck's, but let's say you belong to an association. You can grab any relevant tender from our electronic tendering site and post it on your site through feeds. They'll just be redirected back to Buy and Sell tenders. That's what Merck's does. But they charge you for it. Yeah. Say that again.
Do we have an equivalent list to the GSA schedule in the U.S.?
So you're an American company? Yeah, so GSA is in the States. Yeah. So you want to know the Oh, the process. No, I wouldn't know. They have somewhat similar process, but I don't know if they have registration lists.
Does Canada have a schedule similar to the GSA where the companies are on that and then government organizations are free to buy from them?
These are the pre-qualification lists that I told you about. You need to qualify. The lists are not available to the public, but government officials can access them. So you pre-qualify to get on the list, whether it's an internal small registration database for low dollar or for the standing offers or supply arrangements for the bigger tenders. I'm not sure what GSA has, if it's an open list and anybody can access them, but essentially you register and you either register to qualify or you pre-qualify based on a technical proposal.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Manny, so much for that. I think that was very enlightening to understand how we can buy and sell with the Canadian government. Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our presentations for this afternoon, and I'd like to thank all our presenters and everybody for attending. Please take some time to continue to enjoy the rest of the Discovery Show floor, and we look forward to seeing you next year. Thank you.